Hello, welcome everybody. Terrifying Enlightenment. What episode are we up to right now?
That's the second one of this semester.
Yes, it's come in closer to the microphone there, Sharon.
Yeah. In terms of the ones we've been live on, I think it's about eight. But in terms of the ones that we have online, it'll be the fifth.
Cool. So I've got a full house here today. We've got my girlfriend Sharon.
Hi.
We've got Sean, the philosopher.
Hello.
We've got Christo, the self-improvement expert and cryptocurrency man and just enlightened general awesome guy.
Thank you.
And we've got Ahmed from UCD. He's studying masters in mechanical engineering.
That's correct.
That's cool. All right, so I'm going to let Christo ask a few questions, set the scene. Let's go, Christo.
Yeah, well, I think it's only fitting that last week we chose the topic of the shadow. This week I was thinking the mechanics of life.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of talk about the mechanics of life anyway, but we finally have a mechanical thinker here that can call us out on our bullshit. Ahmed, one of the biggest reasons I wanted to get you on the show is not only because of you've got a very calm and energy, dude. Like you know when you can feel that someone's a real good person, but also intelligent. When I asked you what you do and what you're studying, and then to find out that you're also a Muslim, I just found it an interesting oxymoron, a paradox, where a spiritual practitioner, right, in some sense, also studies something so mechanical and scientific. So do you want to tell us how you got started with your studies?
It would go back to something very basic where I was really interested in anything mechanical, taking things apart and whatnot. That's usually the cliched story you could say that. But my bachelor's was in aerospace engineering, and the reason behind that was I just loved airplanes. I just loved aircrafts, space shuttles and whatnot. Always was fascinated by it and just wanted to know how to build one. And now I know how to build one, but no one wants me to build one. So, so yeah, then I decided, okay, let's take a step back. Let's do some mechanical engineering. And then, now I can delve deeper into different aspects of engineering and whatnot, and people will start giving me jobs now. So yeah.
What's one of the first things you started to take apart that you can remember and like deconstruct?
Oh my god. I think most of my toys maybe. Yeah. So, like remote control cars and whatnot. Didn't understand the electronics of it.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not studying electronic engineering. So there you go. Yeah. Just bang, hammer, that's how it works. So yeah.
And are you enjoying it? Are you finding it interesting?
Oh yeah, it is definitely very interesting. I mean, it is challenging, but at the same time it's rewarding as well. Just knowing how to go about things, taking them apart, and then just figuring out how they work, and then being able to take that into any kind of product or thing, any object it is, and just being able to put it back together and be like, okay, it still works. It's good. It's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to do. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool.
It's interesting. It's we talk a lot about taking our minds apart in this show and putting them back together.
Yeah.
And, it's just interesting. That's why I thought it would be really cool to have you on the show, because you could probably link some of the philosophical things, and I suppose, Mark, your knowledge with psychology in the brain and how that's built, and then Sharon, you have great knowledge of the body, being a physiotherapist. And then we have the philosopher Sharon over here.
Yeah.
So how can we combine all of this? How can we be like? Do you know what we should do? We should be like Care Bears and just stick our chests out. And this bright light combines in the middle.
Have you ever seen the Care Bears?
No, I don't.
It was a cartoon, and they all had hearts on their. Was it hearts that they had?
Well, I think it was like they all had different things. Like one of them was a rainbow, one of them was a heart, and so on.
Okay, yeah. So and then they all joined.
If we all
forces.
care strong enough, we can change the world.
Care Bear stare.
Or else, okay, something more relatable. How about what was his name? Captain Planet. They all had the rings and that.
I don't know that one.
With our powers combined, we are Captain Planet. And then they all combined into the superhero that like had an icy face kind of thing, and he just could do anything. He was basically Superman, but it only worked when all of their powers were combined.
So basically the message there was keep a cool head.
Hey.
Well, look, right, to tie in the whole mechanics thing, something I've been looking at recently is obviously I deal with the body as a physiotherapist, but we all know that there's links with the mind and the body. So the body's mechanics can be affected by faulty systems in our brain, in our mind. What do you all think of that?
Yeah, that's psychosomatic.
Absolutely, and trauma related.
Yeah.
Been reading books about this, and wow.
Yeah, go on. Tell us
book
more.
I'm reading is called The Body Keeps the Score, and it keeps the score.
Who wrote it?
Bessel van der Kolk. Very scientific, very research heavy. Shocking things in it. Just absolutely shocking. But his treatment approach, then, I'm only getting to it now, but I know he's very holistic in his treatment approach as a psychiatrist, rather than talking about things. One of the things he proves in the book is that talking after trauma doesn't work, because during the trauma the rational brain shuts down, which is left side. Talking, you can't talk about your traumatic experiences, it's not going to fix it. So he goes holistic into yoga and meditations and more spiritual practices. Now, I haven't completed that treatment part of the book, but this is coming from a psychiatrist, and I really hope Mark is going to read the book after, because I think he could get a lot from it.
Yeah, I'd like to read that.
He's done extensive research. It's just shocking.
What's your view, Sean, on how your body necessarily reacts to your mind and your mind reacts to your body, and the connection between the two, or whether they're separate at all?
Oh yeah, they're totally connected. Tension creates so much, mental tension creates so much physical tension, and then that can have so many. I mean, I don't know the mechanics of it, but I mean, it's pretty obvious that stress is really bad for the body, and depression. If you have depression, you're more likely to have all these other sorts of physical ailments, and people with mental health problems, serious mental health problems, would have a lot of comorbidities with really serious physical health problems, and they're much more likely to die early. People with serious mental health problems, but they are on heavy serious medication as well, so there's a bit of interaction with that, I suppose.
Which, again, this book as well, from a psychiatrist, he's just gone up against the, he even says that the field and the diagnostic manual and everything, the DSM-5, is just, he goes completely against it, because it's masking things in people, and people are not recovering from meds, they're not recovering from talking therapy, from traumatic experiences from a very young age. So,
DSM-5 is just a manual full of very vague labels you can put on someone you meet in order to give them medication. So someone come in and they could say, oh, I've got this around me. So they look it up in a book and they go, okay, you've got 3. If I've got 3 out of 7 symptoms or more of this, then you have schizophrenia. So you're sad sometimes, right? Yeah, okay, you're sad. You do worry? Yes, I worry. Oh, worry.
Which is part and parcel of all of these things,
Do you sometimes have do you sometimes cry? Oh yes, I cry sometimes. Oh yes, I'm afraid you've got schizophrenia. And then all of a sudden they can then give that person medication. Now, obviously, that's a very negative viewpoint, but at the same time, it's got quite a lot of truth to it, in that everything is just vague, and really they don't know what is going on with people, because they don't understand the mind. We're still donkey's years behind it in terms of consciousness and things like that. And then I recognised pretty quickly that a lot of the stuff that they're teaching in colleges is literally guesswork. And they're going, we think this is what he is. So, yeah. How's your mental health, Ahmed?
Well, I have a question for Ahmed.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would see now the body as a mechanical thing. I do see it as, it is a machine in a sense. It's something that works for us, and if something goes wrong in one part of the machinery, it can have knock-on effects to everywhere else. From your kind of mechanical perspective with machines and things that you work with, would you see it like that too? Similar things happening to machines and happening to people?
I would certainly think so. I mean, if one part of your body, let's say for example even just a tiny finger, is not working properly, your whole idea of how to go about your day changes. How you eat food, how you drink, how you just go about everything. Similarly, if a machine breaks down, something goes wrong on one end of a wing, the whole plane is going to fall apart. So
don't scare the shit out of it.
Keep that to a minimum, Ahmed. Traveling to Vietnam in March.
So yeah, so that's my take on it. So basically, if something is wrong, like even a tiny part of something is wrong, you need to fix that.
You know, in movies when there's someone sick on the plane, we're like, we need a doctor, and someone jumps up, I'm a doctor. I'm just like, we need an aerospace engineer. I'm an aerospace engineer. Yes.
And then he just starts crawling out to the wing, and you can just see him with the wind is coming.
Do you remember Father Ted had to get really brave and hold on to the wheel of the plane? Anyway. So your accent is like varied. I'm catching a
sounds
little bit
New
of American in
Orleans.
there as well.
Yeah.
Where are you from?
I was born and raised in Saudi Arabia.
Cool.
Spent 18 years there, finished my high school, moved to Malaysia for my bachelor's. Had American friends, watched a lot of Friends, well, loads of English movies, and then took a gap year in India, and then I ended up here. So
Okay.
yeah, so
So how long have you been in Ireland?
a year and a half now.
Yeah. How do you find it?
Not so bad. I love
Better
it.
than the
actually.
States?
I've never been to the States
Oh,
actually.
really?
Yeah.
Malaysia and India.
Malaysia and India. How
Saudi
come
Arabia.
you've got American friends?
American
Yeah.
friends. Exactly.
Who's your favorite character?
Out of
Our
Friends.
Has to be Chandler. Has to be.
Same.
Chandler.
Well,
Yeah.
I say that, and then afterwards I'm like, oh, but Phoebe, and then I'm like, oh, but Ross. It's really difficult. Funny thing about Friends, I think each of those characters, I think each of them, those characters they portray is in every one of us,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I think that's why we all love Friends so much.
Yeah.
Because we're all
It's a little
each
bit of
in every one of them.
Yeah,
At
yeah.
some point.
They
Yeah.
just got it spot on.
They really did. Yeah.
Never gets old. But
Apart from actually friends hanging out all the time, because we never get to see anyone anymore. You're just like in your own world. You're too busy to actually meet, unless it's like a radio show where it's like, we have to be here at this time. Oh, damn it. Okay. I have things to do though. I know, me too, but let's just meet. Whereas in Friends, it's like they're always together. Anyway.
Yeah, that's true. I always think, I always wish that I was with my friends from Cyprus, the ones, you have your close circle.
Mhm.
Fine, Christo. Have
Whatever.
your favourites.
No, I'm just saying because I don't even get to see. We live in the same country. It's easier. I don't live in the same country as them, but you always think, bloody hell, it would just be great if you lived close to the people that you connect best with.
Mm.
You know.
Coming back to Ahmed's point, the way you mentioned it could be something really small that can go wrong in a machine or a body, and it needs to be fixed, and it's going to cause problems.
Yeah.
And yes, something like the end of your finger or your toe can actually impact your day really massively.
Yeah.
I haven't felt my left big toe in 7 months, and it's driving me insane, and it's having serious consequences all the way up mechanically, and it's driving me insane. But going back then to what Sean said about stress in general, stress is one of the biggest killers of people, it really is.
Yeah.
And if you have any kind of increase in stress levels, you have your adrenaline, you have your cortisol, you have all these hormones rushing around unnecessarily a lot of the time, because especially if you're suffering from anxiety, you're just in this kind of response, especially people who are traumatized as well, they're always in this fight or flight, autonomic nervous system, sympathetic nervous system drive, and that has negative effects on the body long term when it's there for no real reason. So you can imagine that's not even a small thing that's going wrong in the body, that's massive. And then the consequences that has on our tissues, on our joints, on our function, on our brains, massive effects, and then in turn will generate those thought loops of thinking, what's wrong with me, there's something wrong, what's this pain, what's this feeling, why do I feel anxious, why am I nervous, and then you're just constantly stuck in that kind of process. So yeah,
It's interesting that when we feel different or we feel pain, we automatically say what's wrong.
Yeah.
And I was thinking this the other day because, guys, I got a cold for once. So yeah, I woke up with a cold and I had to go to work, obviously, and I wasn't gonna go on. Like, I thought about calling in sick, and I was like, I'm not calling in sick. That's not what I do. I was like, I'm going in, and I started saying to myself, no, say that you feel different. I feel different. It's like, or I feel different today, rather than I feel sick or I feel this, or you know what I mean? Because that's like negative straight away. I was like, I feel different, and then on the way to work, I just got going, I am strong, I am healthy, I am strong, I am healthy. And I mean it. If you saw me walking down the road, and I tend to talk to some of my mates on the way to work sometimes, as a buzz. And I sent them a video now. I was just doing a northern accent. I am healthy. I am strong. Bit weird, but anyway.
Did it work?
Yeah, once I got in, he was in there. You didn't notice I was sick with, did you?
Oh, really? You know, I didn't realize.
Yeah, nobody knew. Nobody, so...
That's because he is strong. He
Ooh.
is healthy.
I am strong. Take it or leave it, mate. But, yeah, so anyway, ended up... Because I got up and thinking, oh, I don't know if I can do this. That's how it always starts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, obviously, in a sales
Story
job...
of my life.
Yeah, exactly. Story of everyone's life in some sense, but yeah, you just started thinking, in a sales job, because you have to be high energy and not be, So anyway, like I said, I started with the positive affirmations and not really focusing on the negative. And then when I got in, I ended up having a great day. Do you know? It's just pushing past that difficult part and then convincing yourself that you're fine.
It really depends on how you start off your day, doesn't it? Really. Yeah. But it's interesting when we do think that pain or things that we experience, physical sensations, are wrong. That is really interesting. Because it's never wrong. In all the reading I've done and the spiritual kind of insights and practice that I've done, it's... If there's physical sensations in the body, usually there is an emotional or, I suppose, a mind connection to those physical sensations. So we could try change our view around to being what's right, what's this telling me here, and listening to our bodies more, because they do keep the score. They genuinely do. And issues in your tissues and all that. There's books and books on this stuff.
What's the score in your game, Sharon?
What do you mean?
What keeps the score?
I'm minus 200 million nil. Sharon, 200 million nil. Mind winning. But for most of my life, I've had chronic pain. Didn't have childhood memories up until recently. Tapped into those memories, realised certain things went wrong in my body at certain points in time that were difficult for me. Having mad nightmares lately, waking up and like a pain that had been bothering me for 3 days suddenly kind of goes away after these insane nightmares of reliving something that might have happened. Like I think we need to look into, or I suppose listen to our bodies more, and also being aware of what is actually going on at that moment, or what might have happened preceding a certain pain or a certain cold or something that's gone wrong, a headache, a migraine. Now there can
giant Eddie Rockets.
A giant Eddie Rockets, I had last one.
A giant Eddie Rockets milkshake.
I don't know. I'm not saying it's the problem for everything. There are organic causes for things, but a lot of autoimmune diseases, especially, are rooted in emotional problems and traumatic experiences that sometimes we can't even remember. So, I think if there's anything I want to get across to anyone today, is listen to your bodies, and don't be going around going, oh well, I should do this. I should be doing this. I didn't do that. I could have done that. If your body didn't want it, didn't want to do it. So yeah, any thoughts, guys?
Yeah, go on.
Sean, I want to bring in the philosopher on this one, and the meditator, because a lot of it is to do with your concepts of what the pain is, who's experiencing the pain, what viewpoint or perspective we can come at it at. So yeah, just I'm throwing a difficult question at you, I know, but just what are your thoughts?
Who's got this?
Well, I don't really know. When I meditate, there's a lot of stuff about my posture that's happening, and I'm sort of
Same.
obsessing over like how I'm sitting. I should be obsessed about my posture and like anyway, but when I meditate, it's like really obvious, so it's like on my mind constantly. So, and when you meditate, you're supposed to like you're supposed to sit up straight, and so that's like, oh, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? So it's just like a constant theme. But the whole goal of meditation is just to accept reality as it is, right there and then. Mm-hmm. So it's about just recognizing that you're having the thought of, I'm not sitting up straight, this isn't right, this is uncomfortable, this is uncomfortable, this is uncomfortable, and just going, yes, it's uncomfortable, and that's what it is. Stop trying to change it. And eventually, after going through that process for 45 minutes, you might just settle into the reality of the discomfort and just be with it, and then somehow that sort of just is okay.
Yeah, I felt that in yoga the other night actually. Yeah, but then again, I had taken some substances.
Funny that you mentioned acceptance. I'm back from a yoga meditation retreat in Barcelona last week, and acceptance was the main theme of what I came back with from that. Not because they were teaching it, but it was something that I observed and witnessed within myself. And it was to accept that in certain yoga postures I might not be able to do them perfectly, which is just an idea of, it's whatever works for us. Accepting what my body can and can't do at any particular moment. Accepting that if I'm meditating and the thoughts are going mad at one stage, accepting that's why I'm doing it, that's why it's there. The whole posture, I was very uncomfortable sitting in meditation because we were doing hour-long meditations, and with a gentle warm-up at the start to help you sit that way, but I was like, I need to move, and the mind just goes mad and starts talking and talking and talking. But if it wasn't talking, I still sat there. I still managed to stay in that seated position for an hour. The talking was unnecessary, but acceptance was huge for me over there. So when you accept, like you said, what I found when I was accepting things got a lot easier. There was no resistance. And I think if you're
settling into it, as Sean said, was nice way of putting it.
Yeah, and I think if you're it's the same with pains and same with medical problems or issues in the body. If you resist, they'll only get worse. And if we fear them, they get worse.
Just to add, these days I'm big. I don't know if it's a good idea to do this or not, but I'm sort of separating the mind from the thing that's sort of, viewing things, so the ego mind, and then what do we call the other fundamental thing?
The witness or awareness?
Behind
awareness,
awareness.
That's what we said last week.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but even that, if any label at all isn't going to capture it, but we know what you're pointing towards. Yeah.
So if you're you sort of all the thoughts are from the ego mind, obviously, and they're just like constant, and then eventually they sort of like recede, and then you sort of just have the awareness, and so it's the getting in touch with that awareness somehow magically. You can do it through substances, I guess, and it just sort of happens for me now, but it can take a while.
Yeah.
It's almost like I have to wear out, my mind has to wear itself out for like, I don't know, 45 minutes before it then sort of the mind just sort of recedes, and then the awareness is just sitting there, and it's so that's, I don't know.
I had
nice.
in yoga the other night, in yin, I was in some postures I hadn't done for a long time, and they were very painful. But as you said, when I settled into it, it was for the first time I started to question. This is going to sound very odd, but so when my eyes were closed, I could obviously picture the pain points in my body, and then I realized that that's a mental projection of what I think is happening, and it's like, so I can feel it, but it's almost like I'm feeling it through my mind or through my perception, rather than it actually existing in a how do I explain it again?
But here's what I would question there is like, does it exist without because the brain is all feeling?
Of course, and it was the first time that I questioned whether if you could because I've learned how to disconnect from thinking a little bit now, and especially when I have had some substances or at lucky points in time when I'm doing yoga or meditation where I'm thought free, but I never even questioned the fact that actual physical pain could be detached from completely, and just be like, okay, that's there when I think about it, but if I don't even attend to it, does it settle? And it seems to be that if you don't give it attention, it can settle, but obviously it's demanding your attention. You know what I mean? It's going, this hurts. So
but I wonder, is that pain you have, is that tension?
Yeah,
is
yeah,
that
yeah.
mental tension?
No,
you
no.
It's tension in the mind creating physical tension in the
That's
body.
that's kind of what I was playing around with the other night, where it was like, okay, I've got a massive pain in my hips when I have my legs crossed and pushed sideways and one on top of the other and in this very strange posture. And then it was a question of, okay, with my eyes closed, my body as I would normally perceive it is gone, and now it's just a mental image of what my body is doing with my eyes closed, if I'm making any sense at all here. And so I thought that, okay, well, I can kind of picture these points in my head where this pain is. And then I realized that everything that when our eyes are open and walking around is ultimately maya, or it's an illusion. So with my eyes closed, I've literally just cut off one of my senses, and I'm now dealing with the internal feeling rather than just a vision type thing. Again, I'm probably stumbling a little bit here. So it was, okay, I've got pain, and as you said, is that an emotional thing? Is that an attachment thing that's then presenting itself in the physical body? And I think it is. I'm just obviously need to explore this a lot more, because it's the first time I really felt anything different like that. So I'll have to try and get into more comfortable positions again and work through it. Sorry, I've been chatting for a while. I want to bring in Ahmed on something. So I know very, very little about Islam and Muslim stuff. Are you practicing, or are you just kind of moved away from it a little bit, or what's your position?
I am practicing.
Cool.
So I try to pray 5 times a day.
5 times?
Yeah.
Man, it must be hard to fit that in, like.
Sometimes it is, yeah. With your schedule here and the way that the daylight hours change over here, because that's what our prayer times depend on. The way that changes, it really messes up your schedule. Obviously Muslims, we are supposed to fast for a month during the month of Ramadan,
and that's only when the sun is up, though, isn't it? Sorry, only when the sun is up.
From dawn to dusk, basically. From
it must feel great after that.
Yeah, I mean, you have to take it slow. I mean, when you break your fast, obviously because you're not supposed to eat or drink anything.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so no water, no food. So
do you get up before the sun and eat, or do you? Yeah, you do.
Yeah. So that's kind of it's said to be a very auspicious time to eat. You know, that breakfast is very, very nutritious for you. And yeah, so basically you're supposed to wake up before sunrise, eat your breakfast, and then start your fast, and then get on with the rest of your day. And then when the sun sets, you break your fast with...
And does it have to be fully set? Like, is there like rules to that where it's like...
So the convenient thing is that most mosques around... I mean, all over the world, actually, they give out their timetables that, you know... I mean, science has advanced in such a manner that they can predict when the sun is going to set and so on and so forth. You know, they know when the sunset time is. So according to that, they give us a timetable that, okay, at this time we're going to call the call to prayer, and that is when we basically break our fast.
I've done a little bit of fasting myself, but not the sunrise to sunset. But I've done a week with just water,
right?
With no food in the time.
Okay.
And what I've personally found is that you slow down quite a lot, but you're clearer at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's a nice feeling mentally, but a difficult feeling physically.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And the more difficult aspect of it over here was last year. It was from mid-May to mid-June, so really long day hours. So the longest fast was around 19 hours.
Oh, Jesus.
And the sleeping schedule was completely messed up because I was doing my internship at the time. So I used to get up at 6 to go to work, come back home around 5-ish, sleep for a couple of hours, 2.5 hours, wake up, break my fast, go to the mosque, pray, and basically during that month we have special night prayers and whatnot. So I used to come back home at 12, get another 2 hours of sleep, wake up, have breakfast, and then get another 2 hours of sleep. And so my schedule was completely messed up. So it was broken. 6 hours were broken up into 3 sections.
Wow.
And then full day of work, and traveling on Dublin bus, taking the 75. It was mad. Yeah.
I've reading about some of the ancient reasons for fasting, and I was reading about was it Socrates or Plato? Damn it! I wish I could remember this stuff. I think it was
One of my cousins.
one of Christo's cousins. Yeah, for sure. No, anyway, I think it was either Socrates or Plato, but he heard there was a religious school, and he was very famous at the time. Oh, it was Pythagoras.
Yeah, he's one of my cousins.
So Pythagoras heard that there was a religious school, and he was already very famous for his mathematics. And he went to the school assuming they'd let him in, and they're like, no, in order to get in here you have to fast for a month, and no food at all for the month. And he was like, yeah, but like, do you know who I am? And they're like, yeah, we don't care, you can't get in here unless you fast for a month. And then he did it, and then he basically thanked them when he got in. He's like, thank you so much, like I didn't realize that it was an experience rather than an idea that I could capture with concepts. You have to go through it, and whatever realizations come with that. And then when he started his own school, his criteria was I wouldn't take you on as a student unless you fasted for 40 days. Now, I tried to do a week and it almost bloody killed me. So I can only imagine what it's like being that strict on yourself for a month. But is there palpable... I'm trying to find the right word. I'll only use the word spiritual again. But is there that feeling of something deeper going on within you during that period of time?
Well, initially, it's just the fact that when you do start fasting, your body is just screaming at you like, where's the food?
Yeah.
You know, like, why are you not feeding me? So in the first week or so, first 3 days, I would say, first 3 to 4 days, your body is just screaming at you every day, asking for water, asking for food and whatnot. After that, your body just settles down and just gets used to the routine. And it's quite interesting how the body does that. I mean, it happens every year to us. And after some time, we just get very used to it, and we just don't bother with, even if someone's eating around us, it's just fine. The other aspect is obviously the spiritual aspect, where we believe that it brings us closer to God, and helps us feel. It makes us more charitable to other people. What the poor people go through, and so on and so forth. Appreciation. Exactly. So the appreciation for the food and for all the blessings that we have in this life.
It's very stoic.
Yeah. So that's another aspect to it. And then it's also a joyous time, because the way it happens is that every day when we break our fast, all families and friends, they come together and have a feast for an entire month. Every day someone's calling a party at their home, someone's calling a party in this hall.
You eat so much that your stomach hurts, like, because your stomach just shrank? Or
some people think that we actually lose a lot of weight, but it's actually the complete opposite.
Your metabolism would be like, what the fuck is going on?
Exactly. Yeah. So especially in the Middle East and in India and all these subcontinental regions, we just hammer food once the time opens. Like, when you can actually break your fast, we just eat everything, and then we can't move for 2 hours. We're just lying there, with her in a food coma, basically. And you actually end up gaining weight over the month because of that. It was only when I fasted here that I lost weight for the first time in my life.
Because of the longer days.
It was basically because of the longer days, and I actually started looking after my diet and whatnot, making sure that I eat right. But then the time was so short that it was just 5 hours of you being able to eat that you just can't eat enough calories in that amount of time. Your body just doesn't accept it. And so that is why, I was in a caloric deficit, so I lost weight.
So you do find it deepens your practice?
Yeah, it does, yeah. You
in
feel
the ways it's supposed to.
Yeah, exactly. It makes you more disciplined and whatnot. And just brings you closer to God, and improves your appreciation of your blessings and whatnot.
This is a difficult question, because if someone asked me this, I wouldn't know what to say. But what's the tenets of your faith? What's the feeling or belief or structure that you feel is working for you? Because for me, I had to throw out Christianity, and then I had to learn about what different philosophers and speakers, so to say, were saying. And then when that got really deep, then I could see the messages within Christianity. And now I've come back to Christianity with a different, deeper understanding of it. But also Hinduism as well, and also Buddhism as well, and also other faiths. I haven't actually downloaded the Quran. That's I have the Quran on my phone, but I haven't actually got around to listening to any of it yet. So I'm interested in reading it. So tell me more.
There's loads of signs that they talk about in the book, about the world, how the world was created and so on, and the stories of the prophets are mentioned in it as well. And basically it's everything is there for us to contemplate on, and just think about all the blessings that we've been given again, and why it's certain there are certain things that might not make sense to us, but then we're asked to believe in God, and that's just the faith aspect of it. How much do you believe in God? That are you willing to just let certain things go? Certain things are not explainable. I mean, we know that the Big Bang happened, the world was created because of the Big Bang and so on, but then why did it happen? Like who made it happen?
On a deeper level.
Exactly. So there's so many aspects to it, and this is just such a deep end that you can just
of course. And I don't want to just bombard you with questions, because I would, but one of the things for faith for me had changed from whether it was you had to believe in something without any evidence to it became act from a place of no belief and don't get attached to new beliefs. And it's not this atheistic feeling of I don't believe in anything. It's that any thoughts that you have whatsoever are going to be wrong. And so how do you act from a place where everything you could do is wrong? Again, this goes into non-duality and dualistic language. So if I say something like I think I'm going to go to the shops tomorrow, that's not necessarily acting out of faith, because you're invoking time, you're invoking an idea of that you're in control, that you decide what you're going to do at a separate date. It's this whole kind of thought and belief structure that seems so basic to our everyday going about the world, that we're in control, we're making the decisions, and there's such a thing as time, there's such a thing as me, there's such a thing as the shops aren't me, and I am going to go to the shops at a later date. All of that to me has come into a position where that's actually a lack of faith. I know this sounds crazy because I'm not living that life, but I've been reading and learning about people like a guy called Sri Ramana Maharshi, who basically said if you're in the moment and not thinking about the future and not thinking at all, then you are living a life of faith, because you're trusting that everything is okay even though you don't understand anything. Now, I'm not totally negating your faith or anything, I'm just explaining the different ways that we can come at this stuff from so many different angles and perspectives. Like, no one has a clue what's going on, and I think it's fascinating that there's so many different routes and ways to kind of get this deeper understanding of everything. Anyway, what do you think, Sean? I love throwing you in the deep end.
No, it's interesting. I agree with a lot of what you said there, but somebody told me that is it Islam means it translates as surrender? Is that right? No.
That's
Peace.
one of peace.
Okay. We got that one wrong then.
Nice.
Peace means surrender.
No, Islam means
I
peace.
thought Islam meant surrender.
I was like, what? Peace.
Is there any element of the idea of surrender in Islam?
It's submission, you could say.
Submission.
Yes.
Because I say if you submit, then you'll find peace. But it means peace. I'd say.
Yeah.
But it's like in my mind that was like surrender to the present moment or something. Just surrender to what is, sort of thing. I was looking at that through like a Buddhist sort of lens, I suppose. So when you pray, what are you doing?
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah.
Okay, so basically we recite the verses of the Quran during the prayer, and we basically pray in Arabic. So we basically memorize the verses and so on, and try to learn the meanings of it as well. And I did try to take some Arabic courses to understand what the words mean and so on and so forth. So basically, Arabic is a very mathematical language, you could say.
Oh, similar to the Jewish language as well.
Yeah.
That the letters have numerical value, like A is 1, B is 2 kind of thing.
In a way, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But more of what I'm trying to say is that when you start reading Arabic and you start learning, basically, if you read a sentence and you see that the end of a word has a certain ending sound, so there's 3 possible ending sounds. It's a, u, or e, and each one has a different connotation to it. So if the ending sound is an u, an action is being performed by the word being mentioned. If there's an a, it's being acted upon, and if it's an e, it is the detail of something that's happening.
Wow, that's cool.
So the ending sound completely changes the meaning of the word or the sentence, and mispronunciation of certain words
Could make a big difference.
could make a very big difference of what you're saying. So
I am being shit on.
So yeah, something. Yeah. So basically, it's so in that sense that's what I'm trying to get at. That Arabic is a very mathematical language in the sense that you can understand the context of things based on the order they're being presented on, and that is how also some people would take a certain quote from the Quran and then misquote it, and then they would not tell you what the context of that was. So then
that leads to that extremist beliefs.
exactly,
sometimes.
exactly. They don't take the context of it, so
Okay.
that's what
And
basically.
it's the same with Christianity.
Yeah,
They don't take the context at all, and they ignore half the verses, and they just pick out select ones.
exactly.
Well, this
so
is the thing with language, as we always say,
Mm.
right? It's just so easily misinterpreted because
There's a
Yeah.
verse in the Bible that goes, I think it's something along the lines of, unless you hate your father and your mother, you cannot get into the kingdom of God. You don't hear that one quoted very often, do you? No one brings that one up. Like, we'll skip over that. We don't know what Jesus meant there, so let's just pretend he didn't say it. Yeah. And then is there? I always I like conspiracies. It's an unhealthy habit of mine, because then, like, I'll get sucked into deep in a hole. I don't tell anyone else about it because I want to make sure I'm not an idiot. So I keep going until I find out I am an idiot, and then I let it go and no one knows that I was crazy for a while. Or else I keep going deeper until I realize, shit, there's something to this stuff. Like the bankers around the world, basically. Anyway, I've totally lost track of what I was going to say there. Anyway.
Conspiracies.
Oh yeah, that the numerical value of the words, to me, that means that you could actually encode a lot of messages within what you're saying, and so you could be saying one thing, but there could be a numerical, mathematical secondary meaning. Is that completely off base?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, because I've never come across something like that in the Arabic language.
Okay.
Yeah.
Damn it. I was hoping like for geometric patterns and numbers and stuff like that. Like the word, I don't know, Allah might have a secondary mathematical symbol-y shape type thing. Oh, well.
No, I haven't come across any of that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a beautiful language, and how they're able to express ideas and whatnot in many different ways. And basically, any word can be broken down into a base word, and the meaning can be derived from that. So there could be many variations of a word, but then because of those variations, they'll mean different things. But then the base word is the same, and then that's how you derive the meaning of it.
So can you speak it pretty well?
A little bit, because I lived in Saudi Arabia. I had to interact with a few Arabs here and there. I did go to an Indian school because I am Indian, so I never really needed to interact that much with Arab people.
There's quite a lot of different, sorry to interrupt you,
Yeah.
there's quite a lot of different religions in India too, isn't there, with Hinduism and Muslims and so on and so on.
Yeah, there's many religions in India.
Do they get along?
Certain areas yes, certain
Okay.
areas no. There are extremists in every part of the world, so every country has its own problems and whatnot.
I know that Pakistan split off mainly because of a religious divide.
Yeah, so the main reason that Pakistan was formed was to provide a country where they could practice their religion freely, and even in
Was that
Pakistan,
Muslim people?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it was predominantly for an Islam, predominantly for Muslims, basically. But then again, there are Hindus living in Pakistan as well, near the borders to India and so on and so forth. And even in India, I mean, you have so many Muslims. You have over 200 million Muslims. So India is a big country. So we have over 1 billion people anyway. So
Catching up in China.
yeah, hopefully soon.
You never know. I guess. Yes.
But yeah, that's how it
Nice.
is, yeah.
And where do you see yourself long term, or you don't know?
Hopefully here. I don't know. Maybe. Yeah. I like it here.
Yeah, it is nice.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
He's just saying that. Don't mind him.
Cade Míle Fáilte means 100,000 welcomes, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cade
We're
Míle
a
Fáilte.
welcoming lot sometimes.
Yeah.
We're grand.
Most of us.
Do you know what I found interesting?
I love how we can speak for like 6 million people. We're a good lot.
We're great. And stupid at the same
5
time.
million, yeah. There's
Um,
not even 6 million. There's nowhere near 6 million here. Anyway.
You mentioned earlier about being grateful for your food and thanking your food, and that was something that I had to do for the first time last week in Barcelona on the yoga retreat. It was community living, so someone would cook every day up a big load of food,
Yeah.
and we'd all stand around, hold hands, and whoever cooked the food would say something about it, and we'd thank it before or thank the source and be grateful for our food, and we'd chant an hymn or sing a song before we ate.
Right.
And it was something that initially I was like, whoa, this is weird. But then I loved it. I was like, yeah, let's thank her. Let's thank everything.
Yeah,
let's be
yeah.
grateful and
Yeah.
give me your hands. And, you know, and then we were holding hands and we were feeling connections between each other through heartbeats and pulses and just creating connections and deeper connections with people. And I really enjoyed it. I did. And I was like, oh, we get to chant now. And I love the chanting. And it was multicultural. So there was lots of different cultures and religions there. So each person had a different chant or message to bring to the table. One guy focused on chakra colours in the food. One, I think he was from, where was he from? He was Mexican, but he spent a lot of time in India and he did something different as well. And it was lovely to see the differences. And I almost started thinking, what would I do if I cooked, and what would I say about the food? And, you know, and I was like, this is really nice. And I think the whole community living where we're washing up and we all washed our own dishes. Someone dried them. It was all very much, let's come together. And I felt it was a lovely way of being and living and less stress, I suppose, living that way. So that was a wonderful experience. Community living, peeps. It's the way to go.
Yeah, like we, when we have food all the time, it's very hard to, like, you just shovel it into your mouth all day, you know?
Yeah.
You're like, I think I'll have a Snickers kind of thing. And it's only when you sit back and think, what would it be like if I couldn't get access to this for a few days? What was it like in the famine? And then maybe fast, you're like, okay, let's be a little bit more, like, this stuff becomes who I am. Let's treat it with a little bit more respect, hey? Anyway.
Exactly. Like, that's why I think it's important to practice absence of things.
Yes.
So the practice of fasting, the practice of even, like, I've practiced a little bit now. People think I'm mad for doing this, but I practice with sleep deprivation sometimes as well, just to give me that value back for sleep when I do get it, you know?
You're crazy, Christo.
No, but a lot of people will stay up and they don't value it, and then they get into a toxic routine, but
And wonder why their body's feeling bad.
yeah, exactly. But then that could be a perception, and then they could just feel like their body's feeling different, you know?
Yeah.
It could be anything from that, or even spending a couple of nights outside. I've seen some people do that, like some really rich guys that have businesses, they actually choose to be homeless.
Yes.
Yeah, it's again a very stoic idea, kind of remove what you have so you can appreciate it. So instead of you looking up and trying to see what people above you have and going, oh, I want, instead you let go of what you have for a period of time, and then when you come back to it, you're like, I have everything I need. I'm so happy and grateful and thankful, rather than I want more, you know.
Exactly. We are so abundant.
Yeah.
We're so abundant in everything that we have in life. I mean, of course there are people that are in less fortunate situations, people that are homeless.
Yeah, the 1%.
Yeah, the 1%. You mean the top 1% or
In
the
the,
lower?
we
Top
are the
one.
1% of the world.
Oh, we are.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Yeah, God. So there's plenty of people that are less fortunate. But I think as long as you have a roof over your head, food in your belly, that's all you need.
Mhm.
All these other things are just so silly, in my opinion. Did you know I read a great article there a couple of days ago, on The Guardian, and he was talking about there was these studies done on the different classes. So the lower class people that are very misfortunate are poverty driven, then the middle class and the high class that are super rich. And it was like the happiness scale and how content they are with life. Turns out the middle class are the happiest. The lower class, obviously, because they're missing fundamentals like a roof over head and food in their belly. Of course, not surprised there. But surprisingly to a lot of people, not to us, I'm sure, because we understand this, the least happiest were the richest people. Because you get to a point where you have so much power and you can do anything you want, and then you lose your sense of purpose.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're in the middle, you're always like, I suppose, driving towards something. But they also compared the type of job. So if you are working in an office and you're doing a sales job, you're most likely getting paid more than a lot of people. But you compare that to someone else that's a florist that might not be getting paid as much, but they're happier than the one that's working in the office.
There's a movie called Happy, it's a documentary, and it changed me a lot because I went into it thinking I know my stuff anyway, and obviously I didn't, but the scene that interested me the most, I can't remember what country it was, it might have been India, but there was this man and he pulled a rickshaw. The rickshaws, it was just a bar with some passenger behind. That's a rickshaw, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, he used to just pull that all day long for like 16-hour day, literally running, pulling people around all day. Went home to like his little house was just basically a tin roof and some tin sides and a mat to lie in with his family there and his neighbours. The man was the happiest man you'd ever meet, and he was just like, I have my family, my neighbours are here, we all get on great.
Exactly.
And I'm thankful for my job and my food. And I was like, Jesus, I actually think I cried a little bit, but not out of shame though. It was a little bit like, because I was like, Jesus, what's wrong with me? Because I was thinking, again, your identity says if you were in his circumstances, you'd be miserable, and that's kind of, you gotta because more recently that showed me what I'm addicted to. It's not that I couldn't do that. Of course I could do that, but I'm addicted to this lifestyle. Because I'm used to this lifestyle and I think I deserve this lifestyle and this is how it should be. But you have to let go of your identity, because your identity is going to be challenged your whole life. Whether it's your body falling apart, whether it's your husband or wife doing something you don't like or leaving you, or whether it's a million different things, your identity is going to be challenged. And if you can voluntarily let it go and go into challenging situations, you're going to grow into a person. You're going to realize that your idea of yourself isn't who you are. And when you say stuff like, oh, I couldn't go for a run, I'm not a runner, you're like, Jesus Christ, would you just get out the door and go for a run? There, you're running, you're a runner. Like,
Yeah.
Jesus, like.
Yeah, I don't get any of this. I think ever since I was 19, I had that near-death experience. I just don't get any of that other bullshit. I don't get it. It's like, we have everything. Like, we've been given this experience, first and foremost. I'm alive. I can look at this. Okay? I'm gone blind. I can listen. Okay, take that away. What else do I have left? I can touch. Whatever I have, I'm going to focus on what I have. And everyone should do the same. We're so abundant.
We all have our bad days, of course.
Oh, for sure.
Of course. But
For
like,
sure.
I think that practicing gratefulness can start off in a weird place where you're like, oh, what am I going to think about here? What am I grateful for? Oh, I'm grateful for my legs. Like, it feels fake at first.
It is though.
And then you're like, holy shit. Eventually it becomes real and you're like, I am actually, imagine if I didn't have these.
I had to feel it, because I started last year at some stage writing down things I was grateful for every day, and I was like saying the same stuff all the time. Family, roof, job, and I was like, it has to be more than this. But then it took some kind of crisis moments and everything to actually make me feel the gratefulness for use of my legs, use of my arms, use of my body, functioning mind, and
Big toe.
my big toe.
Kill Bill.
I really, really miss the sensation in my big toe, and I was so grateful for that when I had it. So it's these things, you have to feel them. I think they either need to be nearly taken away from you or taken away from you or threatened in some way in order for you to truly feel grateful, because I can't, like, I just wasn't feeling it every day. I'm grateful for my mum and dad. I knew I was. Do you know what I mean? But unfortunately, I do think something has to happen in order to make you truly feel that gratefulness.
No, you're right there. Definitely something has to happen.
Feeling.
And it can be some sort of traumatic experience or deep experience, whether it's through meditation, Sean, or a near-death experience. Like, for me, definitely the near-death was the biggest kick in the arse.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Ahmed, I don't know if you know much about psychedelics, and I don't know what your opinion is of them, being a Muslim, and I know it's haram. For those who don't know what a haram is, do you want to explain?
Basically, not allowed in simple terms. Something that you shouldn't be doing.
Same in Buddhism.
Yeah. So psychedelics, drugs, alcohol is not allowed in the religion, and using them. And you're only allowed to use something when it's medically required for you to use it. So, for example, I've had 2 surgeries, so I had to go on morphine. And I had the best time of my life.
Yeah.
I was high as a kite. But yeah, it was only for, just to make that pain go away for that amount of time just after the surgery. So yeah, that was it.
Well, psychedelics, I think, Christo, you're probably going to say this, they make you feel things. So things that people say to you that are just simple logic, like, oh, you should be grateful for this, or thinking is not helping you, and your fears are irrational, and you're like, oh, I know this, but it doesn't help me. So the knowledge doesn't help, but then the psychedelics come in, you go, oh, okay. I feel it. And then you're like, shit.
Like, imagine if the planet had a means of communicating with you, and it left something on the planet by which it can do that.
Okay.
That's what I believe the mushrooms are there for. It's a reminder of the abundance in the gift of what we have here on earth. And I know right now, because I do know that Islam, they do follow science to a degree as well, don't you guys? So, as more of the truth comes out about psychedelics and how they do have a medicinal value, it is coming out slowly but surely. I do think that Islam might kind of see it from a different perspective.
It seems to be in Buddhism. I've been reading some of their, I think it's their eightfold path and things like that. And one of them is about not taking any substances like that. But I found a different interpretation of it, which fits my agenda. And it was that you don't let yourself be taken by or become intoxicated by a substance. And so, from my agendaed interpretation of that, it is that you never become addicted to the substance where you have that craving for it, and that you can't be without it. And then you can use it as a tool responsibly.
Yeah.
It's like having one drink of alcohol every 5 weeks or something, rather than someone who's like, I can't go out without having a drink. One is that you're intoxicated and been taken by the substance, and the other one is where you're actually responsibly using something. Now, alcohol is kind of bad for you pretty much at all times, but we've been told we got to go here, so I'll try and finish my thoughts real quickly.
Well, that goes for food as well, right? Moderate everything.
Humans are addicted to everything, including our ideas of ourselves, our thoughts, and everything about us isn't real. Forget yourself.
We gotta go.
Listen to your body.
Love you guys.
Let go of your mind.
Goodbye. Bye.